everyone, it's Whitney with the Matto Foundation, partnered with Dakota Medical Foundation, where we're working to delay, decrease, and defeat substance abuse and addiction. Today, I am here with the founder and executive director of BioGirls, Missy Heilman, and I'm also here with Dr. Beth Salafia, the research and programming director of BioGirls. We're going to be diving into what it means to build resilient kids today. So first, I want to ask you guys the first question that we're going to be asking everyone here on this series. How do you guys define resilience? And how does what you guys do at BioGirls help build resilient kids?
So I'll go first, Beth. Okay. I define resilience as a resilient kid as a kid who can experience the highs and lows, successes and failures, and all the mundane moments in between, and know that not any one of those moments define who they are or what their worth is.
That's so good. So good. Awesome. Beth, what do you think?
I define resilience as doing well in the face of adversity. So I kind of look at it as overcoming the odds. So you're given life's struggles, battles, and you're able to move past them.
So how does BioGirls kind of play into building resilient kids?
Yeah, so our program is a 12-week program where we work with 2nd through 6th graders. To do that, we're building resilience through the lessons that we're teaching. So we're teaching kids to deal with adversity, to set big goals, to calm that inner voice that's sometimes the biggest critic, to support each other, to lift each other up. All the things that kind of combined help build resiliency in kids.
Yeah.
You have anything to add to that, Beth?
That was good.
Yeah. So I've seen BioGirls has shared a statistic that says 62% of adolescent girls suffer from low self-esteem. So what do you guys see with that, with all the BioGirls, with the low self-esteem? How do you guys play into that, and how does that affect resilience?
So yes, that's a statistic that's actually pre-pandemic. So I would argue that that number is probably even higher now. And what happens with low self-esteem, that's how you feel about yourself most of the time. And when kids have low self-esteem, they're much more likely, in fact, 75% more likely to engage in destructive behaviors. Things like eating disorders, drug and alcohol abuse, risky relationships, and even self-harm or suicide. And so low self-esteem definitely plays into a child's ability to be resilient in different situations.
Yeah, such a scary statistic out there. So with your background, Beth, what have you kind of seen with researching human development, adolescent development, and how does that play into what you're doing with BioGirls?
Well, I would say with regards to resilience, I think anyone can work towards the skills necessary for resilience. And so resilience is something that can be taught and it can be learned. And so at BioGirls, that's our goal. And I've found that we're meeting that goal. So the research that we're doing shows that from start to finish, girls are increasing in their self-esteem, they're decreasing in their mental health symptoms. So it's working. So we are teaching those skills, and we can see evidence of resilience, which is really neat.
Yeah, there's so much hope to pour into our local kids and kids across the United States with resilience. Yeah. So that's really cool that you guys are doing that. So are there some common themes, though, that are causing low self-esteem, causing low resilience in youth? What are you guys seeing? I know you guys are both mothers. What do you guys see with your own kids with that?
You want to take that one, or?
I was thinking about some, I guess you might call them like warning signs. So things to be aware of maybe in terms of looking for whether or not your child has resilience and whether it needs to be fostered a little bit more. We do see things like depression, irritability, they're easily upset. One big thing that I notice with showing a lack of resilience is whether or not they kind of like harp a lot on something, like whether or not it's not easy for them to get over something negative that's happened, or the little things upset them a lot. And so that's something that I think we really need to be aware of and kind of work towards. Also a sense of pessimism. So really just having a negative outlook. And so one thing we do at BioGirls is really try to hone in on a positive outlook on yourself and other people, and really paying attention to that positive self-talk.
Yeah, that's such a key factor to a negative outlook, is reinforcing that positive. Yeah.
I think some other common themes we see from working with BioGirls is just this fear of failure and just being so afraid of doing something wrong. So failure is a big word, right? So it's not even just like, I'm going to fail at X. It's just they're so worried about doing something wrong. And I think part of that is that it's parenting. I think parents don't allow their kids to step up to the plate and try something without trying to help. And so I always say, let your kids order when you're in a restaurant. If an adult asks your kid a question, let them respond. Don't do it for them. And then also, don't just put your kid on a pedestal and only celebrate achievements. We live in such a performance and achievement society where so much emphasis is put on that kids then are expecting that of themselves. So they're afraid to try, or they're quitting because they don't believe they will be good. And so as a parent, don't just talk about performance, talk about progress. Encourage them to put themselves out there. And if they do fail or they do stumble, talk about what you learn from it instead of only celebrating the very best of the best.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're talking about goals, it's not just achieving them, it's all the progress, all the steps to get to that goal. So really having a discussion that's not only about goals and outcome, but the little tiny steps that go into it.
Yeah, celebrating all the steps. I love how you said progress over performance. Such good practical tips for parents, telling them like, celebrate the failures, let them kind of humble themselves and learn and gain that confidence of like, oh, it's okay. Like, I failed, but you know what? We get back up, we build that resilience. So that's really awesome.
We at BioGirls, this year, actually, during the course of the 12 weeks of our program, we utilize physical activity as a way to help build self-esteem. We're non-competitive. It doesn't matter how fast or slow, how much you run, how much you walk. It's all about moving your body and setting a big goal and then working to achieve that. And one of the lessons towards the end of the program season is an actual ladder where we look back at the weeks and we say, okay, what did we do? How far did we run the first week? Well, we didn't even necessarily go for a run. We played a running game because no one could come in and just run a 5K that first week. And then, we go through the weeks and we help them to see the progress that they have made throughout the season. And then they get to achieve this big milestone. And so it's celebrating that progress. And I just recently did this with my 9-year-old daughter. She takes piano lessons, and this was her first year. And now we're towards the end of this first year of piano, and she got her recital piece, which she's very nervous about, but sat down and played it beautifully after just a couple of times. And she hit a couple clinkers in there and was kind of upset with herself. And I said, Mila, let's go back to the first song you ever played at piano lessons. And so she went back through her book and she just started laughing when she saw, because it wasn't even on the staff. The notes weren't on the staff. They were the black keys instead of the white keys. And then she was like, oh yeah, like I really have improved a lot. And so it doesn't even have to be big things, but it's just the small things to help them to see that, again, it's not about performance and achievement. It's about the growth along the way.
Yeah, it's like, look how far I've come. I think there is a lot of pressure on kids. They get so stuck on, the pressure of now or having to perform with those expectations that they maybe feel. But I think a mindset like that, where it's like, wow, like, look how far I've come. really kind of lightens that mood and helps them get a bigger perspective. That's
I
awesome.
also think that as a society, we value busy.
Mhm.
And something that's been taken away from kids is just the opportunity to just be and just be a kid
Mhm.
and have to find something to entertain themselves. And so when kids have that time, they're filling it with a device because they are just so used to being busy. And I think one of the gifts that we can give kids is the opportunity to just go in the backyard and play.
Mhm.
One of our advocates, Dr. Becca Baki, talks about it often. She's a pediatrician. She said, we've gone from a society where we, shoo the kids out the back door to go play with their friends in the backyard after school to a society that's afraid that our kid's going to get kidnapped in our own backyard. So instead, we give them a device and they have a bag of chips next to them. Like, just think about what that does to mental and physical health of kids when you take away the sunshine, the activity, the connection with their peers, figuring out how to play nice with other kids, and you just put them in front of a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And the imaginative play also that we're missing out on. So using your brain when you sit in front of a device, it's just a blank slate. So you're missing out on that piece.
Such great examples. I think there's something with the phones of like this immediate gratification that kids constantly are looking for or needing, quickly reaching for their phone or something that they're almost addicted to. What do you guys think about self-gratification like that or immediate gratification?
Well, I think that there is a direct correlation between mental health and use of social media and devices. And, we were working with 2nd through 6th grade. Yes, some of them have phones. Not many of them, thankfully, at this point have social media. But we weave in the constant reminder that what you're seeing on a screen is not actual reality, right? It's a highlight reel. We've all heard it, but for kids, they're developing brains. They don't understand that like we do as adults, or most of us as adults do. I mean, some people even struggle with it as an adult, but I think as a parent, part of our job is to help kids understand that they need to put their phone down. They need time where they're reading a book or they're bored. There's nothing wrong with
it's okay
being
to be bored.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love when my kids say, I'm bored. I'm like, great.
Good for
I
you.
mean, honestly, like that is okay. Because I have heard stories from individuals in higher education when their kids come in and they have been so overscheduled and their schedule dictated by their parents. They come to college and now they have all this downtime and they do not know what to do.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add to that, Beth? Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy. All the pressures kids have around the social media. And that does impact the mental health and resilience. And you guys have seen that as mothers and in Bio Girls. So wow, lots of good stuff there. Let's talk about what parents can kind of do at home to navigate and kind of instill resilience in their kids, help them build confidence. We kind of talked about like mindset shifts. What do you guys do practically at home with your children, or what do you do at Bio Girls?
So I guess I think the best thing parents can do is model behavior. But I have a mentor who she's a little bit older than I am, and so her kids are 5 or 10 years older. And when I was a young working mom, I just asked about balance. I mean, it's like a buzzword, right? And every young working mom has asked the question, how do I find balance? Or how do I like release the guilt of being away from my kids? And I took her response to heart and implemented. And I think for all of us as parents, it's important to share with your kids the highs and lows of your own life so that they understand that that happens and that's okay. And they can see you as a parent overcoming those lows, celebrating the successes. And so like I even before I started Bio Girls, in my career, which my kids had no idea what I did in marketing, tech consulting, but I shared with them what was happening during my day. And if something exciting happened, I shared with them. If, I had a bad day, I shared that with them too. And then when I started Bio Girls, shared even more, and they feel invested in Bio Girls and are proud of the things that I've accomplished, but also have seen that sometimes it's a struggle. And so I think the modeling for kids is so important.
Helps them grow and grow with you. Yeah, that's so awesome.
I have a couple other thoughts too. That would be one point that I would also mention. Another point would be making sure that your child knows that you love them and feels that you love them. So if you're at work, 8 hours a day or whatever the case might be, as long as they know that you love them, they can feel it, that's going to be really impactful. And actually, like, if you look at the research, I'm going to be a nerd here and just say, if you look at the research with resilience, like practically every study that's been done in the past 50 to 100 years has indicated that having that supportive, loving relationship, typically with a parent or a caregiver, is associated with resilience in children. And so it's not to say that like you have to be the perfect parent, you have to be there all the time. It's really about the quality of your relationship. So the more a child feels loved, the more likely they are going to be able to handle the challenges that life will inevitably throw at them. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing I think has to do with love, but it's about self-love and self-compassion. So if you can teach your child how to take care of themselves, how to love themselves, that's going to go a long way as well. So give yourself a little bit of a break when you make a mistake, or if you're having a rough day, take some time for yourself. So really like the love of a parent, but also teaching them to love themselves. I think those are two important things.
And that goes back to the modeling, is they're going to learn that through how you model that with your self-love. And
so if you have a positive view of yourself and your family, your situation, then that's going to reflect on them too. And so that's not only going to be effective by role modeling, but it's also going to, teach them how to be that way themselves.
Yeah.
And I also think it's important to, again, I'm going back to performance and achievement, kind of the pedestal we put those things on, to help kids know that your love for them isn't tied to
Absolutely
what
X,
they're
Y, Z,
doing.
whatever.
It's just unconditional.
Yeah, that's such a good point that I'm glad you made. So going back to like having a caring adult and knowing that they feel loved, how does Bio Girls play into that with, I know you guys have mentors, and that's something you purposely plan, is making sure that the girls have a caring adult, a caring mentor, kind of guide them and know that they are loved.
Yeah, so we do incorporate mentoring into our program. It's small group mentoring, so our ratio is 1 mentor for every 4 participants. It's a critical component of our program because research shows that kids who have a mentor outside of their family nucleus do have higher self-esteem. And so it is a really important component, and the girls love it. They love knowing that there is somebody else in the community who has their back, is a cheerleader for them, and is there to support them.
Yeah. It's really fun too to just like have a mentor, and I'm sure the girls have a blast and sounds super, super fun.
And we're starting to see kind of a cycle happen now where some of the first Bio Girls participants have now come around. They're old enough to be mentors.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, we've got a few of them, and we actually even have a participant. She was a participant as a 6th grader. She is now going to be the leader of one of our programs out in
Full
Jamestown.
circle.
Wow.
So she was a mentor, and then the leader stepped down. And so she stepped up to be the leader because she believes so much in what we're doing.
Yeah. And I'm sure she looks back all the time, and like we were talking about with the ladder, like you look back and see your progress of how far I've come, like how much I've learned through Bio Girls, and how I want to pay that forward and help build resilience in other girls. Yeah, that's so cool. So we've kind of talked a little bit about gratification, and something that maybe goes along with that is internal validation and external validation. And what are some factors where we're seeing girls and young kids in general have so much external validation, or they're searching for so much external validation?
Yeah, so social media, I think, plays a really big part in that. The likes, the follows. Everybody wants to be a social media influencer these days. And what does that mean? You're trying to make other people happy, or you're searching for that credibility from other people, or that validation. We know that girls who have low self-esteem are seeking that external validation. We talked about some of those behaviors. So with Bio Girls, we are trying to change that, so that they're actually looking inside for validation. They're satisfied with who they are. They know their values, and they're making choices based on their values, not based on what other people will think of them or praise them for. The other component that we bring into Bio Girls is a relationship with Jesus. And I think that's a big missing component today in a lot of kids' lives. Because when you know that Jesus' love for you is unconditional, the rest of it doesn't matter. And so we use our program to help give kids a taste of having faith in a higher being, and that being Jesus, and give them a taste of it, so that they can be exposed if they haven't ever been before, and give them a taste in a different environment than the church walls.
Yes. Yeah, that is such a great way to lead with examples like that, to instill that internal validation, because there's so many influences, especially with social media, that make kids feel like they need to seek external validation. So for parents that maybe see these warning signs and feel their kids are seeking so much external validation, they're kind of struggling with that identity, looking for something to believe in. How do you guys, or what would you recommend to parents that are navigating that season?
So one thing before I answer that question, it is shown in research that girls, far more than boys, have a hard time separating reality from what they're seeing on social media, and they internalize it, and they do comparison. Boys are spending a lot more time online playing video games, and actually it's showing that it's a way to connect with others versus girls. And so I think it's really important for parents to understand how their kids are using social media, and to model, again, going back to the modeling, model healthy